But going back to an awareness, as you've pointed out many times, Simon, I'm slightly older than you. So I went to school in the 80's, and back then there were essentially gay and lesbian were concepts. That was it. And there was a phrase that, for gay men in particular, you were mad, bad and sad.
Okay.
Being gay back then was a psychological disorder. It wasn't removed as such, even by the World Health Organization, I think until the 90's, or early 2000s. So you were ill, mentally ill. You were bad because, this is against the Bible and it's against the family. And you were sad because you have no friends, you'll probably get sick and die, you'll never get a job. So that was the awareness. If you're going to come out as gay, your life's over. And the idea of talking about it in any kind of objective, it's just out of the question. I mean, for me, it was silence, just absolute silence. It was a topic that would not be discussed if you could in any way avoid doing so. And if it was discussed, it'd be a wholly negative way. And the worst thing you could call somebody, ironically back then, was queer. So it's been taken as a word the community used to describe itself, but back then was queer or puff. So I just remember thinking, it's something that happens to other people far, far away. So awareness of my generation, sort of zero, absolutely zero. By the time I got to university, so now we are in the 90's, and you have back then, which was the LGB society, lesbian, gay, bisexual. I went to a very masculine, cultured campus. Everybody there was studying PE, sport, almost everybody. And there were some faculties which were more arts related. So if there was an LGB society, they wouldn't come from the sports at all. They'd come from that. And I would say they were viewed with derision as being bad and sad, to be honest. Still, even in the 90's, viewed as that. Perhaps the offensive nature of it was a little less, but no inclusion. That was a group over there. It was separate from the rest of us. And it kind of underscored for me, from a very early age, that being gay was the opposite of being a man, is what I was taught. So if you were gay, you didn't play any sports, you didn't really have any friends, you didn't have an interest in men's things, you didn't dress like a man, you'd more dress as the words I've just mentioned. And so for many people like me growing up, you had this strong confusion, which is, well, I do like sports, I do like hanging with my mates and doing all the things my mates do, but I know I'm gay, so it's a real confusion. I don't know what's going on here. So I just said to myself, I think what I am is I'm just a straight guy like everybody else here, but I fancy other guys now and then. And I presume that's what everybody's like, but we just don't talk about it. It's how you kind of reconcile it. Which, of course, is untrue. But in the absence of any role model anywhere, even on television, the characters there wouldn't be regular stories. There'd be something about it. So either they'd be outrageously flamboyant and comic, or the story would inevitably be tragic, tragic end to this gay man. You just had to kind of reconcile it in your head about what you were. And it wasn't until a really close friend of mine, we were in the same team, both played cricket for the university. I was actually captain. He was a lot better than me, in all fairness. And he was a blokey, rugby, cricket, pint down the pub, a blokey bloke, and he said, I just tell him I need to speak to somebody, and he came out to me.
Wow.
And for the first time I thought, he's just like me. First time ever, I thought, he's just like me. This is a guy who's just like me. He likes the same things as me. All our outlook on life is the same. And it was the start for me to think, this stereotype of being gay, lesbian, all of our community have a stereotype. It's so toxically wrong. It's created deliberately to try to discourage, prevent, isolate people from being themselves. It was the first time I realised, there's somebody just like me. I can be that person. I didn't come out for a little while after that. But for me, that's the power of role model, that ability to relate and then feel confident in being yourself.
In that situation where your friend, I imagine he was in your cricket team, came out to you, how did you respond to that?
Well, I was... is flattered the right word?
Because I was thinking he must have really trusted you to have come out to you.
But yeah, I'd imagine so.
There must be huge trust there.
So, yeah, you feel that sense of being entrusted with this, significant secret.
And there's got to be, he must have had a level of, trust, but safety, knowing that he could share, he needed to share, and he's come to you first.
Yeah.
And that's why I just said that's an incredible thing that he's come to you first.
And there must have been something in the way I conducted myself that gave him the feeling, maybe picked up that, even though I wouldn't have called myself gay then, maybe picked up on that, or maybe you just can sometimes tell. This is an individual, we've never talked about it, I can just tell from their personality that it's not going to change how they feel about me. So you feel that sense of empathy and a desire to support them, to follow whatever their wishes there were. And he didn't want it to be broadcast, understandably so. But I say for me, the profound part of the story is, for the first time ever, I realised that I could be the person I was and not change anything about me and be gay. Whereas until that, it felt like a really significant conflict. That the two were not compatible, because I'd been told they were not compatible, from the moment I could comprehend anything.
That must have been playing on your mind for many years. I can't even imagine what that could have been like.
I think everybody's position when they find it is a different. They cope with it in different ways, and it's a state of normality. It's hard for me to say anything other than, for me, it was a state of normality. That's just how it was. But for other people, it might be kind of chronically oppressive to their happiness.
Yeah.
It is. All I know was, until my friend spoke to me, coming out was something I would never do.
Right.
It was not going to happen. If I had to find a girlfriend and settle down, I would do that.
Really? So you'll have even gone that far, which was because
Yeah.
it just you wouldn't have felt it would have been accepted.
I would have.
Enough, or
Yeah, I genuinely felt I just would not be able to. I had been effectively told, everything you've got, you'll lose. And need to kind of remember, this is well over 25 years ago.
Yeah,
It's a generation ago. And even at the time, you think you're living in a modern, it was significantly less modern than it is now. So, it was just inconceivable that I could come out and keep everything that I'd held dear, my friends, what I was studying, playing in the teams I played for, all those things. It was totally inconceivable.
so in your mind, you're thinking, if I share this with anyone, all those things and everything that you've built in your life, your sporting achievements, the captain of the cricket team, you would lose all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a irrational belief, because you're kind of told this. And we're not talking about playing in the cricket team and everybody's diversity trained and very mindful of the language. Every slur, more or less, is a gay slur.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been to many football matches, and that's the sort of thing that's shouted. When you're in the group, and there are things that will be shouted, and sometimes that's just to spook the other player or the other team, just to make them play bad. It's just, there's so many connotations. There's so many times that has happened. Certainly back at that, those many years ago. That was almost part of the culture.
It is, yeah. It's a phrase is toxic masculinity, in which the extreme end of the view of what it is to be a man is the prevailing culture. So you don't get just homophobia, you get extreme sexism, you get extreme racism, you get this very distorted view of what it is to be a man. And you see it in all kinds of cultures, but you see it, certainly back then, you saw it writ large in sport in particular.
Moving a bit closer to modern day and the impact of social media, and I don't know, thinking 12 years ago with poor Dominic, if that paid an impact. I'd imagine social media was probably beginning. YouTube was around, it's in its infancy, but people using Facebook and Instagram not so much. But would that have played a part of this as well? Because it's not just the bullying in the playground, it's going home, it's the videos being, because mobile phones are now available. People are using mobile phones. You can start to share videos with people. Was social media? So my question is, what impact is social media playing in all of this now? Because I think in today's real, true modern times, it actually can be used for a positive, in the fact that you can get the right messages out across social media. There's far more awareness now because of social media, but also I feel like, but then the negative is almost that whatever's happening in the school playground can then continue to happen online at home, which could be really damaging. I mean, what role are you seeing social media play?
It was massive. When I was at school, you could only be bullied in person.
Yeah.
That was the only way. You could avoid kids. You wouldn't be bullied. Now, there is no hiding place.
No.
At all. So in Dominic's story, it was filmed and shared. I have no idea how it was shared or what platforms, but it was shared. So cyberbullying is the ability to essentially terrorize somebody 24/7. And it happens a lot. And you will never put the genie back in that bottle. Social media is not going to go away, and whilst it's under its current format, it'll probably be the principal tool of bullying.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that means the person who's doing the bullying, or the people that are doing the groups that are doing the bullying, can hide.
Yeah, there's absolutely hide or not hide, unless you as a child are prepared to disconnect yourself from that. Incidentally, I don't use social media. Apart from LinkedIn, I don't use it. No interest in it. But I grew up in a time where I had a childhood without it, so I can do that. But to say to a 14-year-old now, oh, let's switch off your socials, it'd be like saying to us, I'm going to take your car away. Be like, no, it's part of my life. So unless you're prepared to do that, it is a feature of bullying that it will be used and is being used to extend bullying from the physical and the time bound, which is school, to when you finish school, at the weekend, in the holidays, to extend it beyond people who even know you, have never heard of you, don't know the first thing about you, to bring them into it as well. It is as somebody who doesn't have children myself, it is one of the things I'm relieved I would never have to worry about. Because, in Dominic's case, as in so many young people, the lack of confidence to talk about it is a key issue we need to overcome. But at school, you would have, as a parent, you might have some confidence. Well, there's teachers there, there's other people who could intervene. But when they're alone in the room on their phone, who's there to intervene? So, I mean, cyberbullying, and it isn't just LGBTQ plus. I mean, children, people get bullied for all kinds of reasons.
Of course, yeah.
Is, it's a major, I think, issue for parents and families and carers, most definitely, to, I think, have a dialogue with their children, to have that kind of transparency we talked about, that children feel they can talk to the parents and that it will stop. But in the case I mentioned of young Dominic, for whatever the circumstances were, he was unable to get that intervention.